But, mistress, see, an untimely storm is gathering. The clouds may come, the rain may fall forever, the night may blacken in the sky above. For this I care not, nor I will not waver. My heart is journeying to him I love. Hello and welcome back to Nibble Pop. We have started doing a textual analysis of Mrichakatika by Shudraka, and in this video we are going to look at the fourth act of the play. This act is called Madanika and Sharvilaka. We will have some interesting turn of events, and this is going to be a very crucial act because right after this act, we are going to have that all important storm episode where Charudatta and Vasantasena eventually meet again. So don't skip anything today because I'm going to take up only the most important lines. We are going to actually go through the whole act part by part to see what actually happens here. This is Monami Mukherjee. Welcome to our channel. Now, before beginning this act, let me give you a very quick recap of what has actually happened till now. We have seen that Charudatta and Vasantasena, they really like each other. Vasantasena manages to escape from this person called Sanstanak, enter Charudatta's house, hand him her casket of jewelry, goes back to her place. Later on, we see that this box of gems, this casket is stolen, and the thief is Sharvilaka, who steals this casket of jewelry to free Madanika and give her a wonderful life with him. When Charudatta discovers that the gems are gone, he feels that it's really going to be very bad for him. Then his wife decides to offer her necklace as a compensation. Charudatta agrees to it, and Maitreya goes off to Vasantasena's house to give her the necklace in place of the casket of jewels. So this is where this fourth act is starting. In the very beginning, we see the maid. This is again set in Vasantasena's house. So there is a kind of shifting between Charudatta's house and Vasantasena's house. So far as the acts are concerned, we have alternating settings. So the previous act was in Charudatta's house and this act is in Vasantasena's house. If you remember correctly, in the very beginning of Act 2, we had seen the maid entering the stage and saying that Vasantasena's mother has sent a message for Vasantasena. Here also, the fourth act begins with the maid who says, I am entrusted with a message for my mistress by her mother. Here is my mistress. Now, this looks like a repetition because this mother of Vasantasena, her job is to send assignments to Vasantasena through this maid. What kind of assignments? She probably gives her messages related to possible customers, clients who might want Vasantasena's sexual services. In the second act, we had seen that no clear message was revealed to us as to what the message was that the mother was giving. But there, the maid had noticed that Vasantasena was painting a picture. Remember, I had explained that. Here we see that that picture is already painted and Vasantasena is actually looking at the painting. She is gazing at a picture and is talking with Madanika. So Madanika is always present with Vasantasena. I will go to her. She walks about and Vasantasena, as described with Madanika, she enters. Madanika, girl, is this portrait really like Charudatta? Very like. How do you know? Because my mistress's eyes are fastened so lovingly upon it. Now Madanika has not seen Charudatta, and Vasantasena says, how do you know that this portrait is exactly a copy of Charudatta's face? And she says that the way Vasantasena is looking at the portrait, it's very evident that this picture must really look like Charudatta, otherwise why would she feel like this towards it? Madanika girl, do you say this because courtesan courtesy demands it, that you are a courtesan and your job is to please people, so you want to please me. That's why you are saying this. But mistress, is the courtesy of a girl who lives in a courtesan's house necessarily false? So just because I am a courtesan, does it mean I'll always be, a liar, or I will just pretend and not mean what I actually say? So they go on talking all these things, and then this maid, she comes and informs Vasantasena, gives her the message from the mother. Mistress, your mother sends word that a covered cart is waiting at the side door. So there's a client waiting for you, has sent the covered cart, and that you are to take a drive. Vasantasena is really hopeful that Charudatta has sent this carriage for her. Tell me, is it Charudatta who invites me? Mistress, the man who sent ornaments worth 10,000 gold pieces with the cart. So somebody has sent this carriage so that Vasantasena could go and pay a visit to him. And not just the carriage, he has also sent ornaments worth 10,000 gold pieces. Is who? Is the king's brother-in-law, Shansthanaka. And then we know how the reaction of Vasantasena is going to be like. Go and never come again on such an errand. Just don't bother me with this guy. Just go, leave this place. Do not be angry, mistress. I was only sent with the message. But it is the message which makes me angry. But what shall I tell your mother? Tell my mother never to send me another such message unless she wishes to kill me. As you will. Right now, we see Sharvilaka entering the stage. Sharvilaka, who is now ready to offer money, or rather the jewels, and free Madanika. So Sharvilaka enters. There is this series of monologues. We have the basic point of which is it was for Madanika's sake that he did this act, and then he enters the territory inside Vasantasena's house. I wonder where I can find Madanika. And now Madanika enters. Ah, it is Madanika, surpassing Madana himself in charm. Now the name Madanika, derived from the word Madan, is closely associated with love, because Madan or Kamdev is the god of love and sexual desire. And therefore, we see that there is a connection made between Madana and Madanika in this speech. She seems the bride of love in human guise, even while my heart the flames of passion harm. She brings a sandal coolness to my eyes. Sandalwood, especially sandalwood paste, is used as a coolant which relieves skin irritations, burning sensations, and it was widely used, and it's still used in India to treat any kind of burning feeling on the skin. And he says that the presence of Madanika is like sandal. So she cools his senses, his eyes, and he feels relieved of his anxiety, of his irritations of life. Okay? And then he calls her Madanika. Oh, 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 Sharvilaka. I am so glad, Sharvilaka. Where have you been? I will tell you. And they gaze at each other passionately. Vasantasena is a little bit away from them. She doesn't know yet what has happened. She is thinking about where Madanika might be. How Madanika lingers. I wonder where she is. She looks through a bull's eye window. So there's this window through which she looks at them. Okay, so again, let me remind you that the stages probably back then didn't have so much prop. So it was through actions that Vasantasena is playing out this gesture of looking through that window. Okay, why, there she stands talking with a man. Her loving glance does not waver. Waver means shift. So Madanika is looking in a fixed way at this man. This means Madanika is in love with this guy. and she gazes as if she would drink him in, as if she wants to swallow him up, like completely immersed in her sight. She's totally focused. I imagine he must be the man who wishes to make her free. Well, let her stay, let her stay. Never interrupt anybody's happiness. I will not call her. Now, maybe because she herself is suffering through the pangs of love, missing Charudatta so much, that she realizes that it's okay for Madanika to be with this man. And this shows the kind of compassion she has towards her maid. Tell me, Sharvilaka. Now we are looking at the couple again. Tell me, Sharvilaka, what is it, Sharvilaka? You seem uneasy. So, Sharvilaka is a little bit uneasy. He is not very confident right now. I will tell you a secret. Are we alone? Of course we are. Now, Vasantasena, who can hear them, feels very curious. What secret? And then she feels that if it's a secret between lovers, she should not listen. Tell me, Madanika, will Vasantasena take a price for your freedom? So Sharvilaka first tries to see if his plan is going to work out or not. So he asks her. Now, listening that, he is talking about the freedom of Madanika and whether Vasantasena will give that freedom. Vasantasena feels that it is related to her, so it's okay to listen to what he has to say. The conversation has to do with me. Then I will hide behind this window and listen. So the setting is like this. Madanika and Sharvilaka, they are on one side. Vasantasena is on the other side of the window. The spectators or the audience, they can see three of them. But Sharvilaka and Madanika, they do not know that Vasantasena is actually listening to them. Okay. I asked my mistress about it, Sharvilaka, and she said that if she could have her way, she would free all her servants for nothing. So here we get a glimpse into Vasantasena's compassionate heart, that if it was in her power, she would free all her servants. But it appears that the price has to be paid for freedom, and maybe her mother has a share in it, and it is not entirely up to Vasantasena to free anybody without any compensation. So here, then Madanika asks that, how come you have so much wealth with you to free me? Where did you find such a fortune that you can think of buying my freedom from my mistress? Now Sharvilaka says, a victim to my pauper plight, and your sweet love to win, for you, my timid maid, last night I did the deed of sin. Again, a very poetic piece here. Vasantasena is making a comment. His face is tranquil. Now, when there is a sinner, somebody who has committed a crime, usually the face does not look peaceful. Okay? But Vasantasena feels that Sharvilaka's face does not look like the face of a person who has committed a grave sin. It would be troubled if he had sinned. Oh, Sharvilaka, for a mere nothing, for a woman, you have risked both things. So you have risked two things. Now, what two things? Your life and your character. My foolish girl, fortune favors the brave. So I had to take the risk. Oh, Sharvilaka, your character was without a stain. You didn't do anything very bad, did you, when for my sake you did the deed of sin? Now, when Madanika says that your character was without a stain, I feel maybe she didn't even have any idea that Sharvilaka was a thief. Sharvilaka was a thief because it was not the first time that he was entering somebody's house, or he really had this good practice. So evidently he had kept it a secret from Madanika, who feels that this is the first time Sharvilaka must have done something bad, and that too because of her, so she is feeling bad. Now Sharvilaka says, the gems that magnify a woman's charm, as flowers the creeping plant, I do not harm. I do not rob the Brahman of his pelf, nor seize the sacrificial gold myself. So he doesn't do any grave kind of sin. And he says that I do not steal any jewelry which a woman is wearing. Okay, so he has his value system, his personal work ethics. He does not steal everything that he gets a chance of stealing. And he doesn't rob a Brahmin of his pelf. He doesn't take sacrificial gold. Somebody has offered something to the gods. He doesn't touch that. I do not steal the baby from the nurse simply because I need to fill my purse. Even as a thief, I strive with main and might for just distinction twixt the wrong and right. So, even as a thief, he has a set value system to abide by. He follows certain logic, certain ethics of stealing. And so you may tell Vasantasena this, these ornaments were made for you to don, or so it seems to me, but as you love me, never put them on where other folks may see. Sharvilaka shows the jewelry or the box of jewelry to Madanika and says that you go and tell Vasantasena that wear these ornaments, these are for you, but don't wear them in public. Why? Because Sharvilaka knows that he has stolen them, and if Vasantasena wears these, then the real owner of the jewels, Sharvilaka doesn't know that Vasantasena is the real owner. He feels that Charudatta's wife is probably the owner of the jewelry, and if anybody gets to see them, identify them, then it will be bad. So he says that ask her not to wear them in public. But Sharvilaka, ornaments that nobody may see, and a courtesan, the two things do not hang together. Now, the point of being a courtesan is you dress up for public. So, how can you just offer jewelry to a courtesan and say that don't wear this in public? Give me the jewels, I want to see them. Now she wants to see the jewelry. Here they are. He gives them to her with some uneasiness. He is still not very confident. Now Madanika feels like she knows these jewels. It seems to be I have seen these before. Tell me, where did you get them? What does it matter to you, Madanika? Take them. He doesn't want to give away all his secrets. Madanika says, if you can't trust me, how can you just be with me for the rest of my life? If you can't trust me, why do you wish to buy my freedom? Now, I'm just digressing a bit. This word, buy my freedom, this is very interesting. I was earlier saying that Sharvilaka wants to free Madanika. No, he actually wants to buy her freedom. So Madanika will never have her freedom. Her freedom, which is now the property of Vasantasena's house, will become the property of Sharvilaka's house. So it feels a bit weird because it is only a transfer of power and not true freedom that Madanika will be having, because somebody is buying her. Maybe he will treat her in a nice way. Maybe he will, marry her. She might have children, have a nice household. But at the same time, if Sharvilaka doesn't want to give her a good life, he can even give her a bad life because he has bought her freedom. So it's a bit complicated there. Sharvilaka says that, well, this morning I heard in the merchant's quarter that the merchant Charudatta, now he just mentions the name Charudatta when Vasantasena and Madanika both swoon. Swoon means again that fainting way. And I told you everybody faints here. So both of them realize that he has plundered into Charudatta's house at night and got the jewelry. Looking at Madanika fainting down, he holds her. Madanika, come to yourself. Why is it that now your figure seems to melt in limp despair? So why are you behaving in this way? What's wrong? Now Madanika comes to her senses and says, oh, you reckless man, when you did what you ought not to have done for my sake, you didn't kill anybody or hurt anybody in that house. Now she is worried that maybe while stealing, he might have hurt or worse, kill somebody in Charudatta's house. So she wants to ask whether anybody was harmed in the process. And Sharvilaka says, no, I didn't do any such thing. Madanika says, really? Really? And then Vasanta Sena on the other side of the stage, she also recovers. I breathe again. Thank heaven. Now, when Madanika says thank heaven, why is Madanika saying that? Because she knows that Vasanta Sena loves Charudatta. If anything bad had happened to Charudatta or his family, Vasanta Sena will be really hurt. So now that she has come to know that Sharvilaka has not harmed Charudatta or anybody in his family, she feels relieved because of her mistress, whom she loves a lot. But Sharvilaka doesn't know about this affair between Charudatta and Vasanta Sena. He feels that maybe Madanika is attracted towards Charudatta, and so when she gets to know that Charudatta is fine, she is saying, thank heaven. He is very jealous. What does this thank heaven mean, Madanika? I sent for you when love had made me pine. So when I was affected by love, when I was suffering in love, I sinned for you. I committed a crime. Although my house was good since time began, I didn't have to do this. Love took my virtue, but my pride is mine. You call me friend and love another man? A noble youth is like a goodly tree, his wealth the fruit so fair. The courtesan is like a bird, for she pecks him and leaves him bare. Now he says that it is the job of a courtesan to make use of the wealth of a man, and then when that wealth is gone, they leave the man. So he is accusing Madanika of being an opportunist prostitute. Love is a fire whose flame is lust, whose fuel is gallantry. So love is a very noble feeling, sensation, wherein our youth and riches must thus sacrificed be. And this is how I am paying for my desires. Vasanta Sena is smiling. His excitement is a little out of place. And then Sharvilaka is going on accusing Madanika. A courtesan will laugh and cry for gold. You people are so obsessed with wealth. You have no regard for love, for affection, for real commitment. You only act whenever you are paid. So he is saying, a courtesan will laugh and cry for gold. She trusts you not, but waits your trustful hour. If virtue and a name are yours, then hold. Avoid her as you would a graveyard flower. So he is trying to advise his own self that you should not be near a courtesan, because they will never have any regard for real feelings. And again, as fickle means who doesn't have any conviction, any fixity. That is a fickle person. They like one person, next moment they like another person. So as fickle as the billows of the sea, glowing no longer than the evening sky, a woman takes your gold and leaves you free. You are worthless like cosmetics when you are dry. So he is really very upset with Madanika, feeling that she has this affection for Charudatta, and maybe she got paid by Charudatta and he has sinned for this woman and he's feeling disgusted. Yes, women are indeed fickle. It just reminds me of that line from Hamlet, frailty, thy name is woman. So this is a very uncanny similarity I just thought about. And he goes on saying, one man perhaps may hold her heart in trust. Maybe somebody trusts a courtesan. She lures another, attracts another man with coquettish eyes. So she looks at another man and then goes with the third man. So there's no principle. Sports with another in unseemly lust. Another yet her body satisfies. So it's no use falling in love with the courtesan. And then he gets very angry with Charudatta. He says that I'm going to kill Charudatta. Curse Charudatta, you shall not live. Now, Madanika holds him. Okay, he's gone too far now. Oh, you foolish man, your anger is so ridiculous. Ridiculous? How? Because these jewels belong to my mistress. And what then? So what? and she left them with that gentleman. What for? And then she whispers something. Now, Madanika gives information to Sharvilaka, and because it's pointless to make her say this whole thing again on stage, because the audience, they already know what has happened. So, Shudraka is making use of this whisper, where the audience cannot hear what Madanika is saying, but we can understand that she is giving him a summary of what has happened so far. After hearing that, he also feels very surprised. Madanika says, "That's why. Confound it." And he is very sorry that he chose that house. And Vasantasena feels sorry for Sharvilaka. How sorry he seems. Surely he did this thing in ignorance. He didn't know that it was Charudatta, and I love Charudatta, and that jewelry belongs to me. He did that out of ignorance. Now Sharvilaka is asking Madanika, now what is to be done? What is to be done now, Madanika? Your own wit should tell you that. No, for you must remember, nature herself gives women wit. So it is more natural for women to be intelligent. Now he is talking about women being more intelligent. Men learn from books a little bit. Sharvilaka, if you will take my advice, restore the jewels to the righteous man. Go back and hand over the jewelry to him. But Madanika, what if he should prosecute me? Now if I go back to Charudatta, give him the jewelry back, he'll call the police. No cruel heat comes from the moon. Charudatta is a very compassionate man, very soft man, like a moon. So he will not burn you with anger. Good, Madanika, good. So Vasantasena feels very good that Madanika is giving a good advice here. But Sharvilaka wants a different way out. So he says, please tell me what else can be done. Yes, there is another plan. I wonder what it will be. Now Vasantasena is very curious. Pretend to be a servant of that gentleman and give the jewels to my mistress. And what then? Then you are no thief. Charudatta has discharged his obligation and my mistress has her jewels. So you're just like a messenger. You're giving the jewelry back. You're not a thief. But isn't this course too reckless? Maybe I'll get caught. I tell you, give them to her. Any other course is too reckless. This is the only way you can be safe. And Vasantasena is very happy that Madanika has given a good advice. Anyway, Madanika goes to Vasantasena and says that a Brahman has come from Charudatta to see you. But girl, how do you know that he comes from Charudatta? So she asks, how do you know that this person has come from Charudatta? Anyway, she asks him to enter. Sharvilaka approaches and greets Vasantasena and then gives this message. The merchant sent this message. My house is so old that it is hard to keep this casket safe. Pray, take it back. He gives it to Madanika and starts to leave. Vasantasena knows that he had stolen this casket to free Madanika. But the situation has turned not to his favor now, and now he has to leave without getting the freedom of Madanika. And look at what Vasantasena does here. Sir, will you undertake a return commission of mine? Now, when you go to birthday parties nowadays, you get a return gift. Similarly, she wants to give a return gift commission. Who will carry it? So, Sharvilaka feels that I'm supposed to give this commission, whatever she is giving to Charudatta, and then what will happen? Anyway, he asks, and this commission is, you will be good enough to accept Madanika. So Madanika is the commission, the return gift. Again, you might think from a feminist point of view that she is objectifying Madanika, but okay, let's just forget it some time. Let's just not be feminists. Look at this play as if we are people from Ujjaini watching this play. And this is a sweet moment also. If you just forget for 1 second this whole idea of objectification, then this is the moment which Madanika was dreaming about. This is the moment that Sharvilaka was dreaming about. And this becomes like a reflection of Vasantasena's golden heart, where she is offering her maid to the maid's lover because she values love and she gives a lot of value to it. Madam, I do not quite understand, but I do. How so? Charudatta told me that I was to give Madanika to the man who should return these jewels. Now, this is a lie, she's just making it up. You are therefore to understand that he makes you a present of her. And Sharvilaka realizes that, Vasanta Sena knows everything. Anyway, he is happy, and Vasanta Sena says to Madanika that you are free now, so show me your happy face, enter the bullock cart, but do not forget me. So this is the moment where Madanika leaves Vasanta Sena's household, but she is weeping. My mistress drives me away. She falls at her feet, showing her respect for her. Now, no matter how the household was, no matter what kind of job Madanika had to do, this was her home till now. Vasanta Sena was like an idol for her. She was a constant companion, and this is a very heartwarming moment where she is leaving Vasanta Sena, and she says, you are now the one to whom honor should be paid. Why? Because she is free from this life. Vasanta Sena is not yet free, and therefore, because she is now going to be wife of somebody, her position in society is going to be a superior one. Now, right when Madanika and Sharvilaka, they go out to enter the bullock cart, there is this voice behind the scene. Somebody is making an announcement. The announcement is, men, we have the following orders from the chief of police. Now, there is an order. What order? A soothsayer has declared that a young herdsman is like the leader of a group, a young herdsman named Aryaka is to become king. Trusting to this prophecy and alarmed threat, King Palaka has taken him from his hamlet. Hamlet means small village. So Aryaka was a rebellious man, and the king arrested Aryaka and thrown him into strict confinement. Therefore, be watchful and every man at his post. So this was an announcement that Aryaka was captured by the king because it was prophesied, or somebody made this prophecy, that Aryaka will be the king. And so the existing king, King Palaka, he was not happy about it. Now, Aryaka was a friend of Sharvilaka. Sharvilaka, listening to this announcement, he says, what? King Palaka has imprisoned my good friend Aryaka? And here I am, a married man, confound it. So I am just enjoying my personal happiness? No, that's not done. So he decides to go and help Aryaka. Now, remember, he is a thief. He knows the art of entering forbidden places, and it's not a big deal for him to just manage to get into the prison, or maybe just help Aryaka escape. So he decides to do that, and Madanika is quite in a shock. He says, my lord, if you must, at least bring me first to your parents. Anyway, so Sharvilaka says that, okay, I'll just take you to wherever you will be safe, and he decides to go and save his friend. Now, this is where ideally the scene or act should have ended, but in case of Prakarana or Indian drama, we see that there is no scene division. Okay, so it can happen that an act appears to be too long, but imagine this to be a scene changing moment. So it's like you have different scenes in the same act. In this act, maybe the first scene was, where the maid was talking with Vasanta Sena, and then the second scene started with the episode between Sharvilaka and Madanika, and this is the third scene of the act, although there is no clear-cut scene division made. Therefore, these acts look that long. Okay, so this is the last part of the act we have come to. Here we see Moitreyo with a page. Page means a servant. Now, Moitreyo, why has he come here? He has come here with the necklace of Charudatta's wife to offer it to Vasanta Sena as kind of an exchange or a compensation for the lost jewelry. And he doesn't have any idea that Vasanta Sena has got back her jewelry already. Now, the main part or the main theme of this episode, this portion, is the description of Vasantasena's house. It's not just a small place. Vasantasena's household, it stretches beyond courtyards and courtyards and courtyards. And here we see that Moitra is entering the household and he goes from one courtyard to another till he eventually reaches the part where Vasantasena is standing. So I will just quickly go over the different places he goes through before he reaches Vasantasena. First, he enters the threshold and he says that there are these fragrant flowers, holiday water jars of crystal, the doors are of gold thickly set with diamonds. So we can imagine that there's a lot of decoration and festival motifs all around this entryway of Vasantasena's house. Now, we have been to Charudatta's house. We know how humble it is, and there is hardly anything decorative or festive in his house. And this is a sharp contrast that we see here. Vasantasena's house is, beautifully decorated. Then he goes on to the first court after the entryway. And there he sees rows of balconies, and they are brilliant balconies. And he again describes the decorative pieces there, crystal windows from which strings of pearls are dangling. And after the first court, he enters the second court, where he sees that different kinds of bullock carts and carriages are placed. So it's like a stable area or a garage area, you can say in modern terms. He saw some ram, a buffalo, horses, monkey, and of course that elephant. Remember that elephant? That elephant is also tied here. There's this third court which he enters, and there he sees that there's a half-read book and there's this seat prepared for people to sit on. So it's like a drawing room, you can say, but not an enclosed room because it's like a court. So it's like an open space where people sat, maybe read a book, have a game of dice, because he sees a gaming table. Table itself has its own dice made of gems, not any ordinary kind of dice. And then the fourth court. Fourth court, he sees that here sort of music going on. People are practicing music, and he hears drums, cymbals, and pipes. So it's the place where the musicians, they practice. And then the fifth court, smell of asafoetida. If you are an Indian, you would know the word hing. Hing is, it's a very aromatic with a very strong smell, that kind of a spice which is added to these rich preparations. So when he enters this fifth court, he realizes this is the place where food is prepared. It's like a kitchen area. And he, of course, is feeling very hungry here. We know Moitro, he loves to eat, and here his mouth is watering. And then he makes this statement, there are courtesans and bastard pages. Bastard pages, bastard means a person who doesn't have the name of the father. Now, because this is the household of courtesans, therefore, when courtesans have children, they don't have the father's name, and therefore they are considered to be bastard. And here they sometimes work as servants, pages, and so he calls them bastard pages. So it is not a derogatory word here. This is their identity. They are really bastards, not in a defamatory way, but in the way of identity. And then he says, just like Gandharvas and Apsaras. So Gandharvas, Apsaras, they are divine people who are very wealthy. Gandharvas are very wealthy and well-groomed. They are a part of Indra's heavenly court. Apsaras are dancers there. So he is comparing these men and women to Gandharvas and Apsaras, especially because they are so well dressed and they look so beautiful. Then he enters the sixth court, where he sees that jewelers are testing different kinds of gems and making jewelry. So This shows that Vasantasena's house is not a private space. It is almost a viable economic enterprise, you can say. It's always bubbling with enthusiasm, with activity, with productive activity. And it is in sharp contrast with the kind of lack of energy which we see in Charudatta's house, the apathy, the lack of excitement. And here you have so much of enthusiasm, and people are working uh, devotedly here. So we have a different idea about the household of courtesans here. Again, he goes to the seventh court. In the seventh court, he sees all kinds of birds. So it's a very beautiful area. He sees that there are doves, parrots, thrush, cuckoo, quails, partridges, pigeons, peacock, flamingo. Flamingo is a very beautiful bird, and of course, like peacock is our national bird. Then he looks at tame cranes walking around like ancient eunuchs. Well, this courtesan keeps a regular menagerie of birds. Really, the courtesan's house seems to me like Indra's heaven. Something that I was talking about earlier. That this place is like out of the world experience for Maitreya. And finally, he reaches the eighth court, and even here, Vasantasena is not there. So he sees that Vasantasena's brother is sitting here, after which he goes on to the woman who is also sitting there, and he asks, who is that in the expansive garment sitting on the throne? She has shoes on her greasy feet. It was unusual for women to wear shoes. So she must be of a very high position. And maid said, sir, that is my mistress's mother. So this is the mother who keeps on sending messages, okay? And look at Moitre's reaction. Lord, what an extensive belly the dirty old witch has got. So that's not a very kind remark. Anyway, the maid is not happy that Vasantasena's mother is so like insulted by this man. So she is angry too. Anyway, finally, he gets to meet Vasantasena, who is in the orchard, which is also a very beautiful place. Maitreya first describes the place, the garden, and he mentions the golden jasmine, the shefalika, white jasmine, navamallika, so all beautiful flowers. And he says it makes Indra's heaven look dingy. So it is even more beautiful than heaven. And of course, this whole setup, it is not possible to be kind of actually put on stage. It is not possible. See, you can't just put 7 courts one by one, and he's simply just moving from one part to another. So this whole thing is acted out in a way that Maitreya is entering the stage. Maybe he's taking a step, pretending to reach one more court, and the next step, and the next court. So that is why Shudraka has to give us such descriptive passages to compensate for the lack of stage decoration, because we can't see we don't have a pond on the stage with lilies, but through the words of Maitreya, the beauty of Vasantasena's house is described in front of us. And this is what I also see in case of Shakuntala, which you absolutely don't see in Shakespeare. Absolutely no. There's hardly any description of setting in the way we find here. And this is why I think that even if you don't watch Mrichakatika as a play, you just read it, you get a lot of feeling, you get a lot of idea about what is actually happening. Because most of it, like 90% of that scene, is described to you through the words. And that is why they need so much of poetry. Even in prakaranas, where we normally have regular conversations, normal speech, even there we have such poetic lines. Now Maitreya comes and meets Vasantasena, and he approaches her. Heaven bless you. Vasantasena, speaking in Sanskrit, ah, Maitreya, you are very welcome. Here is a seat. Pray be seated. Vasantasena is speaking in Sanskrit. When does somebody speak in Sanskrit? When somebody is very educated. And usually courtesans don't have that kind of education to be able to speak in Sanskrit. So here also we see that Vasantasena is far superior to other women who belong to her category, you can say. And this has an effect on Maitreya, because earlier he had said in the previous act that when women speak in Sanskrit, that sounds awful, bad. But here he notices that Vasantasena is pretty good in speaking Sanskrit. And then, after some casual intro, Maitreya says he imagined that the golden casket was his own and gambled it away. So we don't have your casket with us because Charudatta had gambled it away. And nobody knows where the gambling master has gone, for he is employed in the king's business. So we can't get it back. Vasantasena knows the reality. She knows that it was stolen, and she loves Charudatta for it, because she feels that this is a great thing, that he doesn't want to admit that things are stolen from him. He requests that you will therefore be good enough to accept in its place this necklace of pearls. Now Vasantasena is in a tricky position. Should she show Maitreya that the jewelry is with him, or should she take the necklace? She decides to take the necklace. Why should I not take the necklace, Maitreya? So she takes it and then says, how is it possible that drops of honey fall from the mango tree even after its blossoms are gone? So here the drops of honey refer to the golden necklace. Now Charudatta was very poor. Vasantasena knew that. So if you imagine him to be a mango tree, he's dried up, his wealth is gone. So how can he give that necklace if he doesn't have any wealth? Sir, pray tell the worthy gambler Charudatta in my name that I shall pay him a visit this evening. Now she wants to go and make a visit to Charudatta. Maitreya feels that she has got this necklace. Why does she want to come again? Does she want to get something more from him? Is she not satisfied yet? What else does she expect to get out of a visit to our house? This is an aside. He doesn't speak loudly. He just speaks to himself that why is she going to come? Aloud, he says, Madam, I will tell him, again aside, to have nothing more to do with this courtesan. So I will tell him, when he's saying this aloud, it means I will tell him that you will go. But when he says aside, that to have nothing more to do with this courtesan, the whole sentence reads like, I will tell him that he should not get involved with her. So again, Maitreya, we know that he makes a lot of linguistic humor, and here also we have that example. He leaves. Vasantasena decides to pay a visit to Charudatta. Her maid says, but mistress, see, an untimely storm is gathering, that the weather is going to be a bad one. It's going to be rowdy and it's going to be raining. The clouds may come, the rain may fall forever, the night may blacken in the sky above. For this I care not, nor I will not waver. My heart is journeying to him I love. I love this translation, it's so musical. This shows that Vasantasena is bent on going and visiting Charudatta, and we know that a cloudy sky, an impending storm, these are classic atmospheric backgrounds which go very well with love. And the desire in Vasantasena is increased by the impending storm, and she decides to pay a visit to Charudatta. Take the necklace, girl, and come quickly, exeunt omnes, which means all of them leave the stage. So what we gather from this act is that there is a lot of activity in Vasantasena's house. We also see that Vasantasena has a very compassionate golden heart, and the way she is presented to us, she appears to be like a mistress of a household and not an opportunist prostitute. And even Madanika, her presentation is pretty wholesome. We get these rounded pictures of women who are otherwise presented as flat characters in different kinds of narratives, in different kinds of drama. Here Shudraka is giving us women characters with different shades with regard to their desires, with regard to their ideas, and he is trying to challenge the existing and accepted notions of women being illiterate, women having no wisdom. And this is where I find this play very interesting, because although it has its own patriarchal drawbacks, you can say, but there is a lot of voice that we hear, voice that is otherwise suppressed. Okay, so this act gives us a turn of events, and we look forward to the fifth act, a very important act, which contains the storm episode where Charudatta, Vasanta Sena, they will meet for the second time on stage, and we will see how their love story will continue from there. So don't miss the next episode, which I will definitely upload very soon. Thank you for your encouraging appreciation. I am as much grateful to your inputs as you are to my videos. Thank you once again. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Stay subscribed, stay happy. Bye-bye.